So today I will be speaking about from identity admins to cloud compromise and detecting modern ransomware attacks in the financial sector. My name is Arda Büyükkaya. I am a senior cyber threat intelligence analyst at EclecticIQ. I am delivering actionable intelligence in EclecticIQ to Fortune 500 companies and governmental bodies. And I have a background in malware analysis and incident response. I am also quite active in social media, so feel free to follow me. So today's agenda, we are first going to talk about how does ransomware groups are gaining initial access from cloud services by using high privileged user accounts. Then I will be focusing on the post-compromising tactics, and then I will be giving you the detection methodologies for each of them. Then we will be finalizing this with key takeaways and final thoughts. It should be actionable for your security teams. So let's start with the initial access methodology used by the ransomware groups. We have observed that the main tactic is mostly the phishing attacks. The ransomware groups are using three different methods to achieve that. One is voice call phishing. They are targeting help desk employees to reset some credentials. The another one is the fake login portals. They are trying to collect some credentials from the cloud service providers. And another one is the malicious app registration. They are using malicious apps to getting some credentials from the victims by using the fake applications inside the Entra ID. And there's a stolen privilege identities on the underground forums. This is the second one that we observe quite often. They are using cloud access tokens being leaked previously, and then using this access to gain into Entra ID. The another one is less common. So sorry, the another one is less common. This is called as exploitation of the publicly facing application. They simply try to gain access to any kind of web-facing application and then trying to move laterally into the Entra ID or AWS systems. So here's one example from a social engineering aspect of it. They have used a phishing template to mimic a Microsoft Azure system and then try to collect some credentials and the session cookies. They are using adversary in the middle technique. This is a phishing technique that works with a proxy. We have an attacker server and the Microsoft server. And between those communication, threat actor can able to collect information through the phishing domain that has been registered by the attacker. So with that session cookie, they can able to bypass the authentication system, and then they don't have any MFA tokens or anything. They can able to use that session cookie to access the Entra ID. So how you can able to detect this adversary in the middle attack? You can leverage multiple signals from multiple sources. That could be Office 365, cloud applications, or Defender, or your third-party network detection software. Like for example, you can see that adversary in the middle attack has been detected by the Defender. Also, you can use the web protection to achieve that detection. But overall, imagine that it has been bypassed. So you need to focus on multiple signals, like a risky sign-in data that I'm going to give details in this session. The another thing is stealing the access tokens from the Office desktop applications. This is also a common tactic. They simply dump the memory of any kind of Office 365 application and then trying to steal the token inside that. because we know that if there is a registration happened during the Office 365 installment, mail details has been stored inside that memory, so they can able to use that and then extract some data. The stolen privilege cloud identities, they are mostly targeting global administrators in there. There's a whole marketplace for the initial access brokers. So the ransomware affiliates are using that network to gaining a fast access. Like in this example, we are seeing a threat actor trying to get AWS accounts from an underground marketplace. And in order to achieve that, they are connecting with the initial access brokers. And most of the cases we are observing that InfoStealer has been used to collect these tokens for the AWS or Azure. And the another thing is the open source repositories, because sometimes people are forgetting the credentials in there, and the threat actor can able to access this data. The exploitation is very large scope. It depends on which type of software it is. It is a less common attack pattern, but at the end of the day, they are trying to achieve is to move laterally into the cloud networks. In this case, like this one is Ivanti. They exploited that system and then tried to gain access to the cloud tokens, which is due to the integration process. It has been stored inside there. And then these tokens can be used to gain access to the entry ID quite easily. But there are multiple ways to detect this. I choose the identity risk for the anomaly-based detection. Microsoft is providing a default detection for that. So if you are a P1 or P2 license owner for the entry ID, you can definitely use that to detect any kind of anomaly registration. At the end of the day, threat actor needs to use these session tokens or the authentication tokens in cloud system to register or sign in to the victim user, and you can able to see that suspicious activity inside the risk score section of the entry ID. It is simply looking for impossible travel events or session token reuse, and sometimes there are other suspicious activities like use of VPN services when connecting. The other prevention strategy is the token theft protection. You can use that technique to simply avoiding and making the stolen token unusable for other systems. So threat actor can steal this token, but at the end of the day, they can't use it. By using the token theft protection, you are binding the authentication token to a specific device. But the issue is that there is no support for non-Windows device like Linux, macOS, or iOS systems. So I am highly recommending to using FIDO2 security keys to simply preventing that token theft attacks. The illicit consent grant or simply malicious app registration. Threat actors are trying to avoid using phishing attacks, regular phishing attacks that use a domain page, for example. They simply create an application and then use that application to gain access and gaining permission to that user by simple consent from the victim. Yeah, in order to prevent that, you can simply use a simple configuration. And every time when a user wanted to install an application, they can simply go to the admin approval. And if the admin approval fails, the attacker will fail to install an application. And these applications are usually have a permission, like for example, reading the email or accessing the SharePoint and so on. So these kinds of malicious attacks can be prevented through easy configuration, and you will be also have a visibility in case of these kinds of malicious app registration. So let me talk about the post-compromise tactics and tooling. So we know that right now initial access attacks are being utilized by mostly the three different categories. One is the phishing attacks. The another one is the stolen or leaked cloud access tokens. That could be simple access token or refresh token in Entra ID. They can able to buy that from the underground forums quite easily. The other one is the exploitation, but it takes time and it is less common because every system is different. And when they get access to a Linux server, for example, and if there is an integration with that Linux server, they can able to try to move laterally into that cloud environment inside the enterprise system. But the question is what they are doing after the access in order to increase the impact of the attack. They simply need to execute the ransomware. But before the execution, they need to steal some data. So they are using SharePoint and AWS S3 buckets to simply steal some data from the victim system before the encryption. And they are using rclone to achieve that in some of the times. If they have hands-on access, they can able to use manually exporting the data or simply using the APIs by using Microsoft Graph APIs, for example, to dump large amount of data and then use that exfiltrated data to extort from the enterprise system. They need to have extort large amount of data in order to make the process of the negotiation in their own favor and then increase the money they are asking. So this is the one technique that we are observing over the time, especially in the cloud networks, they are using this technique. The other thing is for the ransomware execution that we have observed before inside the Entra ID systems. They are abusing a cloud native tooling in order to launch ransomware payloads inside to multiple systems. Like for example, Azure run command. This is a functionality inside an Azure or Entra ID environment to simply being helpful for the IT admins and then controlling multiple devices at the same time. But threat actor is repurposing this legitimate functionality to access multiple enrolled VMs or endpoints inside the Entra ID network, so they can able to push the ransomware payload or any kind of reconnaissance tools, or maybe some Cobalt Strike payloads or remote management tools to access the other endpoint system if they are interested to it, and then increase the overall impact of the attack. So it is quite important to know that and then making a detection against it. The cloud dashboard is also being repurposed. We know that after gaining access to a highly privileged user account, that could be global admin accounts or security admin accounts inside the Entra ID or AWS, they can repurpose this dashboard for their reconnaissance attacks. And they are trying to find out what type of software is this enterprise using, what type of users is available. They can able to collect some emails or identify some key figures inside the organization, and then trying to reach out to that entity again in order to increase the impact zone of the attack. They might gain access to a single Entra ID user, and then they might able to gain access to other partners inside that enterprise organization. There could be multiple branches, and they might be able to access to these branches if they have a global admin right. So they are trying to look for a single sign-on application Also, this is another technique that we are observing quite often. Single sign applications could be Slack or EDR solutions, for example, and then trying to use that software as a service in their own favor to gaining access on other systems or downloading sensitive information and then use that information to in their own attacks. I gathered up some detection opportunities. This is mostly for your own reference, but I wanted to mention some of them. Like the important thing is that I have mentioned mostly for the entry ID, but at the end of the day, they are also targeting AWS or Google GCP. But you can see that if you can able to identify the attack pattern, like I mentioned before, like downloading data from SharePoint or using illicit grant attacks to gain access to emails for the business email compromise, for example, you know simply where to look. So the intelligence gathering is quite important when you wanted to craft a detection for that one. For example, I mentioned the Azure run command to pushing ransomware payloads. You can simply use entry ID activity logs to identify what type of run commands being executed. And you can craft a simple query to search out if there's one user trying to trigger a run command for the multiple virtual machines inside your environment. You can simply detect that quite easily by using the entry ID activity logs. This is also similar for the AWS. If you have the CloudTrail logs, you can able to focus on 3 different API calls, which is list, describe, and get. And then trying to understand that if there is a suspicious activity inside my AWS console, if there's a possibility of the reconnaissance, you can immediately get notified about it. But again, you need to have the visibility for the logging mechanism and also the visibility for the attack pattern. And this is where the intelligence comes up. You need to have a solid foundation for the threat intelligence to improve your detection. I have added the Custo query language for some of the detection opportunities in the presentation. So feel free to download the presentation and then click on the YAML file to go to the detection rule itself. So here's some key takeaways and the final thoughts on my side. I think, again, the cloud applications are perfect targets for the ransomware affiliates and in general cyber criminals who wanted to target cloud-based applications because it opens up so many doors for increasing the impact zone of the attack, and it can be used for the reconnaissance purposes or exfiltrating sensitive information. We know that single sign-on is being quite used in the enterprise system, and if one of the high privilege cloud account being compromised by the 3 different methods that I mentioned in this talk, it is possible to log in inside this application and then abusing that application to performing the attack. So the actionable intelligence is really important. You need to convert the intelligence into an effective defensive strategies. That I mentioned, there are different logging mechanisms, but at the end of the day, you need to know where to look in terms of attack pattern, and then understanding how the ransomware groups are motivate, what they are interested to it, and then move your focus on that. The abuse of IT operations, this is also quite often that we are seeing, and you can also see it on the news. They simply use the cloud native functionalities to perform their offensive attacks. It could be lateral movement or escalating privileges. They are using Azure Run command or the dashboard console of the Entra ID to perform the reconnaissance, finding out which application are being used. So this is quite important to understand that, and then you can able to craft some detection around that to detecting some suspicious activities. Like if your security admin or your global admin tries to download something very large within a short period of time from a different time zone or different IP address. But this is a suspicious activity that you need to take a closer look at it. The high value targets that I am seeing that is the most of the financial services because of my own visibility. And this talk is mostly focusing on the attacks, the attack patterns, the TTPs that I observed inside the financial sector. But at the end of the day, if you are using the cloud services, it is a very similar environment and the attack pattern is quite similar. And you can simply utilize this intelligence, utilize this detection mentioned in this talk, in this presentation. You can use that inside your own enterprise system, regardless of if you are a financial service or healthcare organization or anything. If you are using the cloud networks, you can focus on those three different initial access points and then develop your detection on it, then move on for the post exploitation. Because we have seen some cases like the Microsoft Defender or third-party solution couldn't able to detect because of the evasion techniques they're using. Because again, they are using a normal activities and normal functions inside the Entra ID or the cloud network, but they are doing something offensive. So you need to have that visibility to find out and then differ between offensive and the non-offensive activities. So thank you very much for your listening. I hope you like it, and over to you.